In the quiet village of Ondo, surrounded by green hills and narrow dirt roads, lived Ade, the only son of two humble farmers. Life was simple in Ondo, but for Ade, it was often accompanied by whispers and side glances. People pitied his parents, murmuring about how they had been unfortunate to have only one child. This constant chatter lingered in Ade's heart, shaping a dream that would guide his life. "Don't let what people say bother you," his father would advise, his voice steady as they worked side by side on their small farm. But Ade couldn't ignore it. One day, while resting under the shade of a mango tree with his mother, he spoke up. "Mama, I will erase this shame. One day, I'll have so many children that people will stop looking down on us." His mother gave him a weary smile, wiping the sweat from her brow. "Ade, children are blessings, yes, but they're also a responsibility. It's not about having many, it's about raising them well." Ade nodded, but deep down, he was determined to prove everyone wrong. Years passed, and when Ade turned 20, he decided to leave Ondo for Affy, a bustling town not too far from the village. There, he found work at a mechanic shop and rented a small room. Life in Affy was different, busy streets filled with vendors calling out their wares, children running freely, and adults hurrying to and fro. It was here that Ade met Titi, a lively bakery worker with a heart as warm as the bread she made. Titi had an infectious laugh and a kind nature that immediately drew Ade to her. After months of getting to know each other, Ade proposed, sharing his dream of a large family. "One day, Titi, we'll have a house full of children," he said with excitement, his eyes shining. 20, maybe even more." Titi laughed, thinking he was joking. 20? Ade, you're dreaming too big." "I'm serious," he replied, his voice firm. "Children are the greatest gift. And I've waited my whole life to have my own." After their wedding, they moved into a small rented house. Life was modest but joyful. Not long after, their first child, Deli, was born. Ade was over the moon. He carried the baby around town, beaming with pride, announcing to everyone who cared to listen, "My son has arrived. This is just the beginning." At home, however, Titi felt a mix of emotions. While she loved Deli deeply, she couldn't ignore the financial strain their small income already faced. One evening, after Ade returned from work, she brought up her concerns. "Ade, I know how much you love children," she began hesitantly, "but raising even one is expensive. Shouldn't we take it slow before having more?" Ade laughed, pulling her close. "Titi, don't worry so much. God will provide. We'll manage, just as my parents did." Though unsure, Titi let the conversation rest, hoping Ade would realize the challenges ahead. Months later, Titi discovered she was pregnant again. Ade's excitement filled their small home, and he celebrated with friends and neighbors. "Another blessing is on the way," he declared. But Titi felt a growing sense of unease. As the months turned into years and their family expanded, she began to wonder if Ade truly understood the weight of his dream. The news of Titi's second pregnancy brought a mix of joy and apprehension into their home. Ade, as always, was thrilled, seeing it as a sign that his dream of a large family was steadily coming true. He told everyone who cared to listen, "God has blessed us again. Another child is on the way." The neighbors, initially supportive, smiled and congratulated the couple. However, behind closed doors, whispers began to swirl. How will they care for another child? One neighbor murmured to another. Ade's excitement blinds him to reality, another said. Titi heard these whispers, but what troubled her more was the physical and emotional toll her growing family was taking on her. By the time her second son, Kola, was born, Deli was still a toddler needing constant care. Titi found herself stretched thin, nursing the baby while trying to manage the household and look after Deli. One evening, after an exhausting day, Titi collapsed into a chair, rubbing her swollen feet. Ade returned home, carrying a small sack of yams and a wide grin. Titi, he called out cheerfully. You won't believe the deal I got on these yams today. We'll eat well tonight. Titi gave him a tired smile. Ade, I'm glad you're happy, but I'm exhausted. The boys demand so much, and we're running low on supplies. I don't know how we'll manage if this continues. Ade waved her concerns away as he always did. Titi, don't worry so much. God has blessed us with these children, and He'll provide for us. Everything will be fine. But everything wasn't fine. Within a year, Titi gave birth to twin girls, Funk and Folake. The news of twins sent Ade into a frenzy of celebration, but it left Titi feeling overwhelmed. Their modest home was now bursting at the seams. Every corner seemed to be occupied by toys, clothes, and crying babies. The neighbors' whispers turned into outright criticism. Why is Titi letting this happen? One woman said. Doesn't she know she can't keep having children like this? It's Ade, another neighbor replied. He's obsessed with having a big family. Poor Titi doesn't have a say. The words stung Titi, but what hurt more was that they weren't entirely wrong. She felt trapped in a cycle she couldn't escape. One afternoon, as Titi struggled to calm the twins while Deli and Kola fought over a wooden toy, an elderly neighbor, Mama Eka, stopped by. Titi, my dear, she said gently, placing a hand on Titi's shoulder. You look tired. You need to talk to your husband. This isn't sustainable. Titi nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. I've tried, Mama Eka. But Ade won't listen. He thinks everything will magically work out. Mama Eka sighed. Men can be stubborn, but you must make him understand. You're not a machine, Titi. Despite her exhaustion, Titi continued to bear more children. After the twins came another son, Segan, and then another set of twins, Bola and Beezy. By now, Titi was perpetually fatigued, her days consumed by cooking, cleaning, feeding, and soothing crying children. Ade, however, remained steadfast in his belief that their family was blessed beyond measure. Titi, he said one evening as they sat on their worn-out sofa, can you imagine when all the children grow up? Our house will be filled with laughter and stories. They'll take care of us when we're old. Titi, cradling the youngest twin in her arms, looked at Ade with a mixture of disbelief and frustration. Ade, you keep dreaming about the future, but what about now? The children need clothes, food, and school fees. I can't keep up. Ade's face fell slightly, but he quickly recovered. Titi, you're the strongest woman I know. We've come this far, we can handle anything. But Titi wasn't so sure. The financial strain had reached a breaking point. Their neighbors, once supportive, now openly mocked them. Some even avoided the family altogether, unwilling to lend a helping hand. One day, as Titi walked through the market with her children trailing behind her, a woman selling vegetables called out, "Ah, Titi, are you expecting another one? Or is this all for now?" Laughter erupted around her. Titi lowered her head, her cheeks burning with humiliation. That night, as she lay awake listening to the rhythmic snores of her husband, she began to question everything. "How much more can I take?" she whispered to herself, tears streaming down her face. Her breaking point was fast approaching, but Ade was too lost in his dream to notice. The house in Affy was no longer a home, it had become a chaotic battlefield. Titi, now a mother of 9 children, could barely keep up with the endless demands of her family. Cries of hungry toddlers echoed through the cramped rooms, while the older children squabbled over space and attention. Every day felt like an uphill climb, and no matter how hard she worked, Titi felt herself slipping further into despair. Ade, as usual, remained cheerful and oblivious to her struggles. He spent his days at the mechanic shop, returning home in the evenings with stories of work and dreams for the future. Titi, on the other hand, spent her days cooking, cleaning, and soothing crying children without a moment's rest. One evening, as the children finally settled into bed, Titi approached Ade in the dimly lit sitting room. Her voice trembled as she spoke, "Ade, we need to talk." Ade looked up from his plate of yam and stew, surprised by the seriousness in her tone. "What is it, Titi?" Titi took a deep breath, her hands clenched into fists. "I can't do this anymore. The children are too many, and we're struggling. I feel like I'm drowning, Ade. And you don't see it." Ade frowned, his cheerful demeanor fading. "Titi, why are you saying this? We've been blessed by God. Children are a gift." "Ade!" Titi snapped, her voice rising for the first time in years. "Stop hiding behind that excuse. Yes, children are blessings, but they also need food, clothes, love, and attention. I'm just one person, and I'm breaking." Ade sat in stunned silence as Titi continued, tears streaming down her face. "Every day, I wake up before dawn and work myself to the bone. I haven't had a moment to rest in years. The children need me constantly, and you're never here. You have no idea how hard it is." Ade opened his mouth to respond but couldn't find the words. He had never seen Titi like this before. "You don't plan, Ade," Titi said, her voice quieter now but no less firm. "You just dream. And I'm the one paying for it. I can't keep living like this." That night, Titi stayed awake long after Ade had gone to bed. Her mind raced as she thought about the life she once dreamed of and the reality she now faced. She loved her children deeply, but she couldn't ignore the toll it was taking on her. As the moonlight streamed through the window, Titi made a decision. She packed a small bag with clothes for the youngest children and gathered them quietly. Deli, the oldest, stirred in his sleep but didn't wake as she tiptoed past him. By the time the first light of dawn touched the sky, Titi was gone. When Ade woke up that morning, the house felt eerily quiet. He called out, "Titi? Titi, where are you?" There was no response. Panicked, he searched each room, his heart sinking when he realized she was truly gone. Only the older children remained, staring at him with wide, confused eyes. "Where is Mommy?" Deli asked, clutching his younger brother's hand. Ade's throat tightened. He didn't know how to answer. Days turned into weeks, and Ade quickly learned how difficult it was to care for 9 children alone. He struggled to prepare meals, often burning the food or forgetting to cook entirely. The younger children cried incessantly, and the twins fought over toys, leaving Ade at his wits' end. One evening, as the children clamored for his attention, Ade slumped into a chair, utterly defeated. His once cheerful demeanor had been replaced by exhaustion and despair. He had lost weight, his clothes hanging loosely on his frame. "I don't know how Titi did this," he muttered to himself, burying his face in his hands. "I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I was building a family." The neighbors, who had once laughed behind his back, now openly criticized him. "You see what happens when you don't listen to reason," one woman said. Titi warned him, but he didn't care. 5 weeks after Titi's departure, just as Ade was beginning to lose hope, she returned. It was a quiet evening, and the children were playing outside when they suddenly erupted into shouts of joy. "Mommy! Mommy's back!" Ade rushed outside, his heart pounding. When he saw Titi standing at the gate, holding the youngest twins, he felt a wave of relief and shame wash over him. "Titi," he whispered, tears streaming down his face. "You came back." Titi looked at him, her expression weary but resolute. "I didn't want to leave, Ade, but I had no choice. I needed you to understand what I was going through." Ade nodded, his voice breaking. "I understand now, Titi. I was wrong. I didn't see how much you were carrying. I'm so sorry." The children crowded around them, their laughter filling the air as Titi and Ade embraced. For the first time, Ade truly understood the weight of his dream and the burden it had placed on his wife. When Titi returned, the chaos in the house began to settle. Her presence brought calm to the children, who clung to her, desperate for the comfort only a mother could provide. But her return wasn't without conditions. That evening, after the children had gone to bed, Titi sat across from Ade at the small wooden table in their kitchen. "Ade," she began, her voice steady but firm, "if I'm going to stay, things must change." Ade nodded quickly, his eyes filled with regret. "I'll do anything, Titi. I've learned my lesson. These past weeks. I don't even know how you managed all these years. I was blind to everything you were going through." Titi studied him for a moment, searching for any trace of the stubbornness that had caused so much pain. But all she saw was a man humbled by his experience. "Then we need a plan," she said. "No more children, Ade. We can't keep living like this. We have 9 children who need us, really need us. It's time we focus on them." Ade's shoulders slumped, and he nodded. "You're right, Titi. I thought having a large family would erase the shame I felt growing up. But I see now that it's not about the number of children. It's about giving them a good life, raising them with love and care." Titi leaned forward, her expression softening. "We need to make changes, Ade. I've already thought about it. Tomorrow, we'll visit the health center and talk to a doctor about family planning. We can't let this cycle continue." Ade hesitated, but the memory of the last 5 weeks, the crying, the chaos, the exhaustion, flashed through his mind. He nodded firmly. "I'll do it." Whatever it takes to make this work, I'll do it. The next day, they went to the health center together. The doctor explained their options, and Ade, to TT's surprise, volunteered for a vasectomy. "It's my responsibility," he said, looking at TT with a newfound determination. "You've done enough for this family. Now it's my turn." TT felt tears prick her eyes. For the first time in years, she felt truly supported by her husband. Life in their household began to improve. With the knowledge that they wouldn't have more children, TT and Ade focused their energy on the 9 they already had. Ade worked longer hours at the mechanic shop, saving money to improve their living conditions. TT returned to work part-time at a nearby bakery, where she found joy in contributing to the family's income. Their relationship also began to heal. In the evenings, after the children were asleep, they sat together and talked, not about dreams of a larger family, but about how to make their current one thrive. "Ade," TT said one night, her head resting on his shoulder, "thank you for listening. I didn't think you'd ever understand." Ade placed a hand over hers. "I should have listened sooner, TT. I was so caught up in my dreams that I didn't see the reality in front of me. But I see it now, and I'm not going to let you carry this burden alone anymore." Over time, Ade began sharing his story with others in the community. At first, it was during casual conversations at the mechanic shop. "Parenting is not about numbers," he would say, shaking his head. "It's about being there, really being there, for your children." Word spread, and soon, Ade was invited to speak at community gatherings. He stood in front of crowds, recounting his experience with humility and honesty. "I thought having a large family would bring me joy and erase the shame of my childhood," he told them. "But I didn't think about the responsibility that comes with it. My wife, TT, carried the weight of our choices while I ignored it. I learned the hard way that children are blessings, but only when they are well cared for." His words resonated with many. Couples approached him afterward, thanking him for his honesty and seeking advice. Ade became a quiet advocate for family planning, urging others to consider their abilities before expanding their families. At home, Ade and TT found a rhythm that worked. The children thrived under their parents' renewed attention and care. Deli, now the oldest at 8, often helped his younger siblings with chores and homework. Laughter filled the once chaotic house, and though their lives were still modest, there was peace. One evening, as they sat outside watching the children play, Ade turned to TT with a smile. "You know, I used to dream about having a house full of children. But this is better than I ever imagined." TT chuckled, leaning her head against his shoulder. "It's because we're doing it together now, Ade. That's what makes all the difference." As the sun set over their small home in Ondo, Ade and TT reflected on how far they had come. Their journey had been difficult, but it had taught them the importance of balance, understanding, and partnership. And while their house wasn't as full as Ade had once dreamed, it was overflowing with love, and that was more than enough. Hello Affy's tribe, I trust we enjoyed the story. Kindly put what you learned in the comment section. Please like, share and subscribe to help support the growth of the channel. Thank you so much. Till I bring another story your way. Bye.